yeah, they just pretty much committed grand larceny that day, and among a whole lot of other things. When they stole mine and my family's home, and everything we owned, which ended up, separating me from my family that day for it's still going. I mean, it's almost 6 years now. And try that one sometime. That hurts, But this is just gonna be, I've already covered it in that story, but some people had asked me to cover it just separately one more time so they wouldn't have to listen to that whole thing to find it. So here we go. This is gonna cover the kidnapping part. Okay, so this is where we've already had our exchange, and my limited exchange, what I was limited to, of words, and it was very, very coordinated. It was you can tell they had a huge briefing on that beforehand, with, what seemed to be 25, 30 vehicles out there and way more people. That included all the different kind of units that were used and all that. So it was ridiculous. I had ladies in my front yard crying, and it was just unbelievable. But they couldn't believe that kind of thing was actually going on in America at that time. But I tried to tell them. Anyhow, so the police ended up finally saying, well, you've been through a lot today. I mean, they just hadn't got there just a few minutes before. You've been through a lot today. This is how they try to do their Jedi mind trick on you. You've been through a lot today, and do you need to go to the hospital? But first they were asking. I said, no, I don't need to go to the hospital. I said, you guys need to leave because you're not even supposed to be here, and I don't care what you've got. They knew what they had, and I also knew it was not, well, let's just say they didn't have what they needed to show me that day. And that's only magnified since then. So then the police say, well, are you sure? Because you really do seem like you need to go to the hospital. I don't need to go to the hospital. I'm just, more than I'm showing, a little ticked off here. You guys aren't supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be doing this. And I stood on all my, constitutional rights, I threw out everything that I could in the limited amount of time they're allowing me to talk. And anyway, so they asked me, I think, a third time, not asked me, but the asking turned into, by the third time, turned into telling. Well, yeah, I'm thinking, and they play the, I know it's good cop, bad cop, but they started playing the good cop thing. Good Samaritan thing. Well, yeah, they looked at each other and they're like, you don't really look that good. Yeah, I think you probably need to go to the hospital at this point. I'm like, what are you guys doing? I said, I do not need to go to the friggin' hospital. What it is, they didn't want me there because they knew I probably, more than likely, could have stopped it. It would have taken me a little bit, but, I had my vehicles at that time, which they ultimately ended up taking as well. And so finally, about that time when they knew I wasn't going to give in to that, one of the policemen reached over and grabbed my arm very tightly and just pulled me toward him. Just started, like they do, like they do now, like you've seen them do. And says, well, you're going to the hospital. And I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, I do not need to go to the damn hospital. I said, what are you guys doing? I'm like, all right, wait. I'm like, just hang on just a second. I'm like, so you're telling me that I'm going to go to the hospital whether I like it or not, and whether I want to or not. Is that what you're saying? And he just said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it was clear at that point it was a grand larceny theft. It was a takeover, basically, which if a lot of the people don't, not just wake up, that's past already, but start, some kind of action. Now, there is something you can do, and we'll save it for another time, but it's already out there. It's already out there, so I usually try to just stick to stuff that if I don't see it up there and out there yet, or if I see it going way off course, then maybe I'll stick my 2 cents in. But waking up is past. It's action. Action needs to be taken already, and that is basically what needs to happen. Anyway, so he grabbed my arm by force after I confirmed that with them. He said, yeah, you're going. He's like, now you can choose either that vehicle, which was the ambulance, or we can take you in the back of the car, meaning it's police vehicle. So I chose, I wouldn't have chose that if I'd have known what he was going to do. Those thugs, and people, when I say that now, it's just true. They're thugs with badges. And people are finally starting to see that now, because then, of course, this is like, almost 6 years ago now. People were just, around where I was, some people were just starting to kind of feel something was wrong, but I had already been through the ringer and out. So anyway, he said, all right, fine. So I chose the car. So he turned me around and then he put the cuffs on me. And I'm like, what are you doing? I said, did I not? I don't want to go. I said, but I did agree to go. Did I not? I didn't resist you or anything. He's like, well, because they're just itching to do it, these thugs. Well, it's just standard procedure. If you're right back the car, we have to put the cuffs on. I'm like, well, all right. And then, of course, once they have you in there, they're not going to let you change. So, and they wouldn't adjust the seating back there. I was completely scrunched back there. The cuffs were hurting. My legs were hurting because I was so scrunched up back there. And all that, it was done. I don't care who tells me. You can tell what your current situation is, people. I think you're intelligent enough, regardless of what they think, because what they usually say is backwards anyway. To know what's happening to you at that point in time. And they were doing that on purpose, completely purpose. And when we pulled away from there, every single one of them had a smiling smirk on their face, especially the ones where you could tell had just, let's say, thrown on a uniform or a polo shirt, just happened to say that little town's name. And I've seen that several times before. You could tell they weren't from the area. So I'll leave that at that. What they did from that point is they did take me to the hospital. It was very clear, as I learned later. The hospital was informed that someone highly intelligent and dangerous was due to arrive by police escort. And that's what I learned later. And it was very obvious, even if I didn't learn that later. It was very, very obvious, because when I got there, everybody seemed to keep, how people normally avoid you like by 1 or 2 feet so they just don't bump into you. Times that by about 10. So they were avoiding me between I would say 10, 15, 20 feet. Everybody. They were just all staring like the president had just arrived, but in the reverse, that's how it was. And they would, if you were escorted near them, they would literally, even if you were 15 feet away, they would back up 10 more feet. That's how it was. And, I'm going to close this out now because I don't want to make this long. But after I got there, not only was I held for almost 9 hours against my will, I was detained for 9 hours against my will. I wanted to go. I said, what are you guys doing? I said, let me go. I want to go. Am I not clear on that? So they were trying to get me committed to a psychiatric ward. That's what they were trying to do. And I mean, that was obvious that day, because the psychiatrist or doctor, whatever, that arrives there actually told me, yeah, they've been holding you because it didn't take them 9 hours to get there. But they said, well, they were wanting to put you through this test. And apparently they were told that, and this is what they do, you know, that I was not, didn't seem stable and all that crap, you know, just whatever crap they can come up with. And let me just mention that real quick before I forget, people. When you get involved in that kind of stuff, when you're either in the hospitals or in wherever, you better start checking your files, because that's how everything is communicated on that realm. And if you find something in there and you don't like it, you better correct it. And just have them stick it in the file. I mean, I know they'll probably take it out, but at least, you know, you can say that something should be in there and keep a copy of it. But here's the worst thing of all. Right when I got there, they forced me to give my blood and my urine, and they did not give me a choice. They forced me to give my blood and my urine. I said, well, look, I don't even know why I'm here. You guys have literally kidnapped me and brought me here. You're not letting me go. And now you're wanting to pull body fluids out of me? I said, what are you guys doing? I said, well, what happens if I refuse? Because this is kind of, I mean, violation is being violated is being violated. I said, well, you guys are like violating here, man. You know, I said, what happens if I refuse this? And the simple words, famous words are always, well, you'll probably end up going to jail. Are you freaking kidding me? You know, in truth, that beautiful truth, according to what they are supposed to do, if they really were educated on such subject, and not to do, if they break those rules, and they know which ones I'm talking about, technically they're supposed to be executed in 90 days. But anyhow, I'll leave that up to a higher power. But what I just wanted to get down on record was I was kidnapped, detained against my will, falsely accused of being unstable, and my blood and urine pulled from me. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.